Hi guys. So, in addition to the Israelis claiming that Iran has lied about their ambitions in regards to the nuclear deal and the secret ICBM testing that they were doing in the desert, they're also saying that they carried out unreported ballistic missile tests in January that contravened the UN Security Council's Resolution 2231. So the line of the narrative is continuing against Iran in terms of attack it before it attacks us. So yesterday there was some confrontation between Israel and Hamas on the Gaza border. Rocket fire for hours after militants in the Gaza Strip launched their biggest attack on Israel in years, firing at least 25 mortars at communities across the south of the country. Israel responded with at least 7 bombings of facilities belonging to Hamas and the smaller Islamic Jihad. No casualties have been reported by either side, but Tuesday's violence marks the single biggest attack from the Palestinians since 2014, the Israel-Gaza war, and comes after months of tensions in the border area, where we've seen a lot of Palestinians mainly killed and also injured. Not to say that Israel is wrong on that point, but that's the facts. So, there's less Israelis dying than there are Palestinians, and that's always been the case. So most of the Gaza missiles were intercepted by Israel's rocket defense systems. One shell landed near a nursery school shortly before it was due to open. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised in a statement on Twitter that Israel would respond with great force. Neither Hamas nor Islamic Jihad has made a claim of responsibility for the initial fire, although Israel is blaming Iran and the backing of the Islamic Jihad for the attack. So again, we're just looking at this focus on Iran, no matter where the rockets come from in relation to Gaza or Syria, it's all backed by Iran. That's the narrative that's being pushed by the Western media, and obviously on the other side, the opposite is true. So, you have to kind of sift through it and choose what you want to believe. After all that confrontation, a ceasefire was arranged earlier today, so there should be no confrontation on the Gaza border as long as Hamas doesn't fire any rockets at Israel. Israel has promised not to fire any rockets back. So hopefully, there'll be some. I want to be hopeful. That's what I want to be. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I just know that it's all part of the show. So it's not really something I can be hopeful about. Just wary and cautious in what I say and in what I believe. So at the same time, all of that is going on. Russia and Israel and Jordan are, advising that it's probably best if Iranian forces stay away from the southern part of Syria, close to Israel's border, and only allow Syria's army to be there. So that attacks on Israel are kind of less surprising or easier to defend against if they're coming from further away. But if they're much closer, then it's possible the attack could, actually work. So it's interesting that there's a report out that hours after the Palestinians paused on Wednesday, today, May 30th, in their broadest rocket mortar assault on Israel in 4 years, the Iranian backers were already moving on the Golan. Under cover of the deafening Gaza clash, Iran, Syria and Hezbollah began marching military units on the road to Quneitra, I can't say that word, opposite Israel's Golan border. They include the Syrian army's 42nd Armored Brigade of the elite 4th Division. Intelligence sources report Iran is employing its classical tactic of cooling one sector on Israel's southern border with Gaza, that's the ceasefire, while creeping up silently on another, the Golan front in the north. The movement is timed to reach Quneitra on Thursday, March 31st, the same day that the deadline is for the Iran nuclear deal. So, very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. When Russian Defense Minister and his Israeli counterpart are due to meet in Moscow. So, okay, you've got, I think, 3 things coinciding there. The arrival of this military unit at Golan, March 31st, the Russian Defense Minister and Israeli counterpart meeting in Moscow. Also, North Korea's official possibly arriving in New York tomorrow as well on March 31st. He's in Beijing at the moment, and he's likely probably to maybe stay there for a couple of hours talking to Xi Jinping. About what, we don't know, but Xi Jinping is, pulling puppet strings. Russia, Putin is pulling puppet strings. Uh, Ayatollah Al Khamenei, I think his name is, pulling puppet strings. They're all pulling puppet strings, but above them, there's even more puppet strings. So, boy, there's a lot of puppets on show. But getting back to that, so we've got all these things coinciding on March 31st, and then obviously we're going into June, where I believe around halfway through June is where this kind of emergence of the Antichrist comes out. Maybe doesn't say get on stage and, say I'm the Antichrist, but in some way is recognized. And obviously we've got Prince William traveling to Israel around that kind of time frame. It's not exactly halfway, but slightly further down the line he's coming. So it's possible that the royal family could be actually the connection to the Antichrist that we've been looking for, and maybe not Donald Trump and Obama, which some people believe. Obviously, they're helping the system, but maybe they're not the people that we're looking for. I definitely think Prince Harry is part of it. I made quite a few videos on that now. Prince William hasn't been one of my focuses, but obviously it's his older brother, so it's not too big of a leap to go there. Anyway, that was a bit of a sidetrack. My apologies. March 31st, tomorrow, just keep an eye out on what's going on, particularly with Iran and Israel, with this unit reaching the Golan around that time, the meetings that are going on as well. So a lot to watch. At the same time, you've got Turkey talking with Russia, Erdogan and Putin, about Syria energy trade. I already mentioned quite a few times now how important Turkey is in its strategic location. It houses, or it is home to, NATO bases and American forces. The same is to be said of Qatar, which is retaliating against this blockade that was put in place by Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt. So if you've got two locations that are strategically important, one if you wanted to attack Iran and the other if you wanted to attack Syria, looking like they're possibly going to flip in the future onto the other side. Qatar is, discussing things like trade with Iran and Turkey. So I think that's what it says in the title here. Yeah, Qatar bans Saudi imports as it eyes closer economic ties with Turkey and Iran. At the same time, you've got Turkey talking with Putin, and obviously Iran and Russia are allies, even though it seems like Putin is, some of these reports make it look like Putin is kind of siding with Israel, but at the same time, you've got the force moving towards the Golan, while Russia is saying that the forces shouldn't be near the border, near Syria's southern border, because of the possibility of attacking Israel. I see some dodginess going on here. A lot of things going on, a lot of things to watch. You guys, I'm going to keep watching and keep talking about it. Just keeping not only myself informed, because when I do the research, I obviously inform myself, but obviously, helping to inform as much people as I can as to what's going on, and that it's all planned. Nothing is surprising in terms of what's going on, but to see all the movements that are taking place and how they fit together is what interests me and is the main reason why I make these videos. As I said, North Korean official arriving tomorrow in New York, so you'll have some massive news coverage on that, while other things will be taking place on the same day, which there won't be so much coverage of, but I'll try and keep my eyes on it. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.